the stream to show up here. What's up, you guys? Can you hear us or see us? Let us know. Can you guys see us? Yeah, I know. I'm looking at it. Just want to make sure that... Looks like we're getting some people showing up. Please let us know if you guys can hear us and see us. Yes. Thanks, Menno. Okay. So, are you ready to get started now?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. What's up, guys? This is Casey.
And Coach Tom.
And this is Shot Science Overtime number 211. Yeah, so what we do on our live shows, and we may be a little rusty still because we're trying to get back into things, is that we are going to have a topic that we talk about today that we think is going to help you guys become a better basketball player. And it is something maybe that cuts out a little bit of the learning curve that will help you along your way and get there maybe a little bit faster than you'd hoped. And usually we pick anything that is to do with shooting or anything. I don't know. I'm trying to over-explain it, but we have a topic for you guys. And while we're doing that topic, you guys are going to send us in your questions about anything basketball related, whether it's shooting, passing, dribbling, defense, how to jump higher, how to talk to your coach, whatever it is. And we will answer those questions as soon as we finish our topic. And we also have a question of the day that we're going to ask you here in a few minutes. And make sure that you guys please check out all of our social media stuff. Check out shotscience.com. And if you want to help support us, you can get a shirt. And if you do a super chat, we're going to talk to you for quite a long time. But we want to thank you guys for being here. And let's see, do we have anything else that we wanted to bring up here?
Yeah, we want them to take and let us know where they're from.
Well, I didn't even get to that yet.
I just took that fire away from you,
Casey. That's our question of the day. So our question of the day is always the same, except for sometimes we add in an extra one. But for every stream, we want to know where in the world you guys are from. So we are in Santa Cruz, California, which is kind of south of San Francisco. And we want to know where you guys are. Are you in Japan? Are you in Australia? Are you in Nigeria or...
Latvia.
It's Lithuania. You blew it. It's been that long. But we want to... Oh, yeah, like Menno. They're here from the Netherlands. That's cool.
All right. How cool. How cool.
So we're really glad to have people from all over the globe around for our live streams and watching our videos. And we just want to make sure that we recognize where everybody's from.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so send us those questions, and we will do our best to get to as many of those as we can. If you guys can get out there and help us spread the word on Shot Science, we got a lot of new stuff that we're going to be putting out here pretty soon. We are kind of finishing up our studio stuff and dialing in our cameras, and then we're going to start putting stuff out. So hopefully you guys are excited about that. And if you have topics that you want us to talk about in our new videos too, let us know about that.
You can even do that today.
Yep. And or suggestions for the back wall. I mean, we have a whole bunch of stuff up here. It's only about like a quarter of it, but if you have stuff that you want to see up there, let us know. We have Siddharth Soni here, who's from India. Awesome.
All right.
So let's jump into our topic for today. And while we're talking about that, please send in any of your basketball questions. That would be super awesome, and we'll get to those as soon as we finish our topic. Right?
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay. So our topic for today is how to shoot from deep. And that's one of those things where we get those questions from people all the time. Like, how do I shoot from three-point land? How do I keep pushing my range back? That's a common thing, especially these days with the way that kind of the culture of basketball is going. And we have, very specific ideas on how we think that should go about to increase that for you guys. And so why don't we jump in and start talking about that?
Yeah, okay. Let me give just a moment or two just of background. Up until 1979, well, there was a little experiment with the ABA before this. That's the American Basketball Association. Anyway, they toyed with the idea of a three-point line. But then in 1979, the NBA adopted the three-point line, which they're used today. There's even been some talk about extending it a little further. And then the college teams came in 1986. And then right after that, the next year, the high schools went to the three-point line. Now, that changed the character of basketball.
And if you look at old basketball video and stuff, they don't have a three-point line on the court.
No, and they did shoot deep from there, that distance probably, but not like they do today. I was reading an article this morning, and they were talking about a game that Houston played this last week, and I don't remember who they were playing to make any difference anyway. But they shot 45 three-pointers, 45. And so in the pro game, particularly, that three-point line has become a real important feature in how the game is played.
Yep.
And you take a look at a lot of college teams, and the college teams, most of them have some 2 or 3 or 4 who can really shoot the basketball from that distance. And so what happens is that the game has expanded from being a little bit more, a little tighter, to a wider, wide open game, which is really good because what it does is it opens the floor up a lot more too. But the other thing that happens is that you better have guys who can shoot it, or you're wasting your ammunition, just like Houston did in that game I was talking about. So it's important for us to understand kind of the history of that and how that has changed basketball. And it has become, basketball still has an inside game. It does have a little bit of mid-range game, but there's a lot of emphasis on the three-point line and in all levels of basketball.
Yeah, and it's something to think about too, is that in your lifetime, the rules might change again, and there may be a 4-point spot or something like that.
Yeah, they could.
Like the Globetrotters throw.
Yeah, absolutely. I started coaching in 1961, and so went all through that decade, all through the decade of the 70s, and halfway through the 80s before they actually adopted that three-point line into high school basketball. And, that kind of goes along with some of the other things that have happened in basketball. There's a shot clock in this part of the country. In California, there's a shot clock for high school basketball, but there are other parts of the country where they do not use that. And I saw something the other day. They were really kind of concerned about the fact that here we got 8 minutes to go in the game, and a team is up by 3 or 4, and they're just standing out there at the midcourt line with the basketball, and the defense is just letting them stand there, and so the game just comes to a complete stop. Anyway, that's getting off the topic.
Yeah, big time. So anyways, the addition of the three-point line really kind of opened up basketball, and it changed the way that offenses approach the game.
Absolutely.
And, even now in the last maybe 6 or 7 years, it has really changed a lot kind of with the, Steph Curry and Clay and Ray Allen and all those guys that kind of really brought prominence to the deeper shot.
Well, and it has changed the game, like we talked about. It has changed the game, and there may be some other elements that come along. Like there's been some talk also of raising the pro basket up to 12 feet. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but when you guys who can go up there and hang on their elbow at 10 feet, I mean, that's crazy. Anyway, back to the topic.
Okay, but on that though, it's like, okay, I get that, but then it's a 7-foot guy going against a 7-foot guy.
Yes.
It's not like, it's just cakewalk. So
it is.
Yeah. Anyways, the game is a much more extended game.
Right.
And everybody's out there is trying to figure out how do they develop that shot. So for us, one of the things that we look at is kind of the process behind getting there, instead of just going there and trying to shoot a bunch of those shots. That's not really the way that you develop it. So one of the ways that we really start people out is we want to make sure that their mechanics are where they need to be.
Right.
And so we recommend using the form shooting drill, which is a way for you to focus in on your shooting mechanics, keep everything kind of contained, and really dial in everything from a close range.
Yep.
So you start really close to the basket. We even suggest using one hand on the corner shot or on the block shots, and make sure that you kind of are working just on getting that repetition down.
Of the correct repetition.
Yes.
That's an important key.
And you've kind of removed all of the other variables from your shot, whether it's concern about defenders or getting it off fast, or how far away you're shooting. That short shot should be the easiest shot.
Yeah.
And you really focus in on just getting all the fine tuning in. And once you master that close area, you take a step back.
Yep.
And then you master that area, take a step back, master that area, and progressively through those stepping stones, you get your way back to those deep shots.
Yeah.
And it's one of the funniest things when people are trying to develop that shot, where they shoot all these close shots, like they're working on that close form shooting thing, and then they go from 5 feet to 30 feet, and it's like that's not how that works. You can't just do that, because what happens is your mechanics break down because you're trying to harness more of the power that you haven't really worked to develop. And so you don't have the ability to shoot from there with the mechanics that you've been working on so hard. Right?
Yeah. Another thing that comes into play here in this whole thing too, and it's really kind of interesting for me, is that everybody in the world wants to shoot threes. Whether they can do it or not, they want to shoot them because it's kind of exciting when that ball drops through that basket and the crowd roars, and you just made this shot that was not an easy shot to make. And so and
you get the extra point.
Yeah, and you get the extra points, but it seems like this just everybody wants to shoot threes, and that's really interesting, and that's been in a part of this change that we're talking about. Anyway, getting back, because I get off track pretty easy.
Yeah, no joke.
One of the things that we do, as Casey mentioned, is we usually start all of our shooters, first of all, showing them how we think that you should be doing executing this particular shot. And we look at shooting this way. We look at it, we want to show you how to shoot it, okay? And the other thing we want to do is we want to show you why we teach it that way. And when you kind of get that understanding, then you start to shoot the ball a little bit more effectively. And if you're having problems, you're thinking to yourself, well, what did that old man say about this? Oh, yeah, he said this and this and this. And then you can kind of coach yourself up a little bit. One of the things, I'm going to digress just a little bit again. One of the things that I find is that coaches at a lot of levels, and it's not the upper levels, but a lot of levels, high school level and maybe below. What happens is that coaches throw little clips at players that they think will help them. For example, snap your wrist. Okay, and I asked a student the other day, I said, do you know what that means? Well, not really. Okay, and send another one.
They're like buzzwords or key.
Well, they're little buzzwords. Yeah, but the thing that's real important is that you hear those words and you don't know what it means. And here's another one: square up when you shoot. What does that mean? Well, most people think that means that you have your feet up, squared to the basket, and but nobody really tells us that kind of stuff or tells the players that kind of stuff. And so we take a different approach, and our approach is this. This is how we think you should do it, and this is why we think that.
Well,
and the result that you're going to get will be a good one.
Yeah, and one of the things too to always consider is that typically when you're playing for a team, whether that's a school team or even many, I would say most all of the traveling team, AU teams or whatever, there is not an emphasis on individual skill development. So that will very much be in your hands to work on your game.
Yeah, and let me jump in there. And there's a reason for that. The major reason is that coaches are dealing with groups of players, anywhere from 10 to 15 players, and you really don't have time to really focus on the shooting, which is too bad, because that is what the game is all about. If you can't shoot the basketball, then you don't keep score, and then you don't play anymore. So the upshot of it is that you need to have really good skills so that you can shoot short, you can shoot mid-range, and you can shoot that extended shot.
And you need to remember that you are the one that is in charge of your skill development too. So that's why we're telling you this about your shooting, because probably nobody is going to be as influential in your shooting as you will be in knowing what's going on. So here's the other thing. When it comes to shooting, again, people want, or any kind of thing, skill development training, where people want the quick fix. So they want to be able to, okay, I'm going to work on this shot real close for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to shoot 400 threes or something like that. And to us, that is the biggest miss when it comes to approach.
Yeah.
When it comes to how to develop anything, you have to start out at the basement level on the foundation and work yourself up. It's like if you're a weightlifter or bodybuilder or something like that, or Olympic lifter, and you start out with the bar, and then you know, after 20 minutes you go throw on 4 plates and you try to squat that. You know, it's like everything is going to be wonky, out of place. You're probably going to fail. You're probably going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, and that is just a bad approach. So what you need to do is kind of humble yourself a little bit and realize that it's not going to just happen. And you need to start out close and build your way up. And shooting those mid-range shots, for a lot of people, that's a real tough deal for them to get through. But that not only helps you have that mid-range shot, but it also helps you build up the foundation you need for when you start shooting those deep threes. Because like we were saying, one of the problems with shooting that long, deep shot is that your mechanics break down because you're trying to get the power.
Yeah.
And if you haven't worked up the connectivity of your shot or generating the power, then everything breaks down to, you know, everything is sacrificed to try to get the power to get the ball to the basket.
Yeah.
So you don't want to sacrifice your mechanics for the power.
Yeah, and you know, that's the first thing that happens, like Casey says, is that when you start getting outside of a comfort zone that you've worked on, what you find is that you start to really try to get more power into it to be able to shoot that. But the problem with that is that usually the power comes from your shoulder girdle, your arms, your shoulders, and chest. And so we try to get more power here. And what we teach everybody is this, is that when you're shooting the basketball, your power is broken up pretty much like this. About 70 to 75% of the power comes from your core muscles at your waist and butt and your legs. That's where most of the power comes from. And then you have this power that you generate with the shoulders and shoulder girdle and whatnot that only represents 20, 25% of the total power. And so here's the demarcation that we talk about on the shoulders and shoulder girdle. That is taking care of direction and getting the ball to where you want it to go. Okay, and so you don't, as soon as you start trying to get more power out of the arms because the legs aren't doing it, then we get into this kind of thing where we're just absolutely lunging at the basket and hoping for the best. And so when you take and spend time working on trying to, now we call this a one-part shot, one where you use those legs and then continue right on another shot, you'll find that the shot's going to be effortless, even from the three-point line.
Okay, so I think that let's get to the takeaways here.
All right.
The number one thing is that you need to work on progressing your shot to deep. You can't just there's nothing that we could say like, oh well, you need to put your feet here. That's not how it works. Your shot should really remain the same no matter where you're shooting it from on the court, especially when it comes to the delivery systems like you know, your upper body and your release and all that stuff. That should all be as much the same as you can possibly make it. And if you watch somebody like Steph Curry or whoever, you know, you'll watch them shoot that three-pointer and it looks the same as it does when they shoot the 10-footer or the free throw or whatever, because they're not having to go in there and try to harness all these power, all this energy and power from wherever. They've worked on connecting their body, having the muscles where they need to be, and everything is dialed in. So progress your way back and use the form shooting drill. After that, you know, it's a stationary shot when you're doing the form shooting drill, so you need to use the second pillar of practice, which is game speed, game intensity. And again, you need to work yourself up. You don't want to just start going straight at game speed after you've only practiced set shots. So you really want to kind of get everything so that it's in the right place, and you got to do that again from close in, working it to mid-range, working it to maybe the three-point line and beyond. And that's how you progressively work yourself out there. And again, you know, once you add in, you know, defense, that's another variable that will make your percentage take a shot. And, you know, you don't need to, if you're in the process of working on your shooting and your shot, you don't need to practice once and then go use it in the game. Like
it won't work. It won't be there.
Because
anyway.
It won't be there, and that's going to hurt your confidence probably. So let's work on our shot for a little while, do the game speed, game intensity in the second pillar, and then kind of work up to having it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, any other thoughts on shooting from deep?
Well,
I mean, it's really that simple. It's not
well,
it's not a crazy thing. It's just so many people want that quick fix of it, and
yeah.
it's not there.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that you kind of alluded to when we first started is that how to shoot from deep. Well, one of the confidence that you need is really important as well. How do you establish the confidence in your shot? Well, you establish that by practice, 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 and getting the ball to the point where you have the special touch from different distances and whatnot. It's not magical. It just doesn't appear there one day because you want it to.
Right.
So it takes a lot of time to develop that skill, and then as that skill begins to evolve, let's say, and get better, what you find is that your confidence starts to grow, especially when you start dropping those shots in the basket. And one of the things that's really important to kind of understand too is that a lot of our students who are they're high school and junior high school and a few college players here and there, but one of the things that's real important is that you develop that confidence by repetition and being successful and making it happen. And then you have to stay sharp. If you stay away from the game for a week, one of our students came today and he hadn't done anything in 2 weeks, and it was like starting over again. He picked it up pretty quickly, but you have to maintain that to hold it for you for the long run. And so that's real important to think.
Yeah, because you have confidence in your execution when you have confidence in your shot when you have confidence in your execution, and you have to really work on developing that.
Yeah, very true.
Okay, so I think we're going to stop our topic right there, but we're going to open it up to you guys. So make sure that you have sent us in your questions on anything basketball related, and we will try our best to answer as many of those as possible. Please tell your friends and family to check us out, because that will help us kind of grow things and get things going. And we also want to know where in the world you guys are from. That's our question of the day. Yeah. And also, let's ask a question about their shooting. How about you also tell us what is one thing that you need to work on to improve your shot?
Yeah, that's a good call.
So where in the world are you from, and what is one thing that you need to work on to make your shot better?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into these. This one is from Siddharth Soni, who says, I'm a basketball player and I always want to be an elite player. Okay.
Well, not everybody becomes an elite player. But what happens is that you can develop your skills from not being very good to being pretty good. But the elite players, the ones that excel above everybody else, have something special in their makeup. Maybe it is their athleticism, maybe whatever.
Work ethic. I mean,
work ethics is a big part of that too, because if you're willing to commit extra time and you have the abilities already to kind of do that, then that's when you're going to probably excel and become a higher level player.
Yeah, I mean, being an elite player requires kind of elite level focus and skill and dedication.
Exactly, as well as some athleticism too.
Yeah, and most people, well, I mean, but even athleticism isn't like the deal breaker. Everything else can kind of lift you up on that. But, you will never find somebody that rises to the extreme top without any that isn't completely dedicated and all that stuff.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. This one is from Minnow Pfeiffers, or sorry, I can't pronounce your last name, but they say, how do you defend guys that are heavier than you and try to use their weight to attack you, mostly in the post? That's an easy one. You will always go up against people that are bigger than you. Doesn't matter if you're 7 feet tall, you will eventually run into the guy that is 7'2" and looks like Shaq.
Right.
So one of the best things you can do for me is A, footwork, and B, leverage.
Right.
And when it comes to footwork, there's a lot of things you can do to kind of neutralize people in terms of sealing them off from the basket. Even if they are 100 pounds more than you and 6 inches taller than you, they don't have the right to jump over your back and try to grab stuff or push you or any of that stuff. That is a foul. And so if you learn how to kind of manipulate that using your feet, then and getting your feet established and your position established, then you will be able to kind of neutralize that. When it comes to leverage, usually the lower you go or the lower you're pushing into their body, the harder it is for them to do anything about it.
Right.
So if you get, that's why, when you talk to coaches and stuff and they're telling you to get your butt into them or whatever, and get lower, get your butt into them, or, put your foot between their leg or whatever it is that they say, then that's really where you start using leverage and things like that. And when you block out, you're getting get your butt into them. So if they jump, it's hard to jump when somebody has their butt into your thighs or your knees. So that's leverage and footwork for me are the big ones.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed over the years is the fact that higher levels like the NBA will allow post players actually to just kind of bump you out of the way defensively and not call a foul on it, which I don't understand that. Lower levels, they don't seem to do that as much, but they really do there. But one of the things that is really important too is that the closer you get defensively to that person, the more advantages they have against you. And so typically when we're working with somebody and they're a big beast in the middle, there are a couple of things that come into play. Number one, we don't want them to catch the ball. Once they catch the ball, then the advantages switch to them because of their size, or maybe their speed, or weight, whatever.
As soon as you have the ball in your hands, you are given the advantage anyway.
Yes, and so one of the things that we strive really for over the years is that if we realize that we have a post player we're going to face that is big and is going to hurt us inside, we will front him. We'll get in front of him between the person who's trying to pass the ball and him, and get a hand up so that we discourage those passes. And I know the thing that goes through most people's mind right away is this: yeah, but they can throw it over the top. Okay, when we have a post player like that we have to deal with, there's some support that has to come from the backside as well. And what happens is that you're fronting the guy and the arm full extended. Sometimes we'll have players and they'll bring that arm down and you allow them to throw it over the top. As soon as you put that arm straight up in the air, you will discourage that, and that's a real tough pass for them to throw that inside. Meanwhile, from the other side, there's another player that rotates over to get in position where they're probably going to just run over them. Okay, and so by taking away the pass to the post, you take away the things that they want to do. And now, if you find that somebody is not very effective, then you can afford to play behind them because they're not going to try and take advantage of you. They don't have the skill to do that. So something like that probably is good to do. We will take and high side somebody who maybe doesn't have any moves to the post, or not effective moves to the post. We'll high side him. We'll just get on the top side of him, not the low side, but the top side. So he has to turn into the baseline to get to the basket. So those are a couple thoughts and I've found over the years that when we've had post players that we had to deal with, when we fronted them, we were able to keep them from scoring very well.
Yeah.
They get rebounds possibly. And that's one of the things I think coaches are kind of afraid of too. When you you front somebody, you give away the rebound. But think about this as well, is that it's pretty well determined that if the ball is shot from the free throw line down to the baseline at the basket, 60-70% of the time the ball will rebound to the opposite side. Okay, so you don't care because they're not going to get that rebound anyway. And maybe they get 30% of them, and maybe in a game, maybe that translates into 5 or 6 rebounds. Okay, so I don't get worried about that. Okay?
Yeah.
That's just me, though.
I mean, there's so many nuanced things that you can do to combat that. One of the biggest things is not worry about it so much, and utilize what you know about somebody like that against them. And one of the things that you can always do is that if they're being super physical with you, is kind of allow them to do that. And then one of the things that I remember doing is that when somebody has the ball and they're doing that body slam stuff that they always do, you can just wait for a second, take a step back, and then they fall right on their back.
Yeah, or you let them hammer you and you flop.
Yeah.
You get away with that.
Well, here's one of the things that I think is interesting is that in the last 15 years or so, the flopping thing has become such a big deal back when I was learning basketball, they taught you to do that stuff.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the truth is that it's on the referee to pick that up.
Yep.
And if they're not picking that up and they're making the wrong call, that's not on you. That's on them.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not the same thing when somebody kind of swipes the air and you make some big dramatic. I mean, that's silly. But it's like if you're playing physical and you're getting bumped and you take a charge and it's basically you kind of embellish it.
Yep.
That was taught. And
Yeah.
the same thing when you take a charge, they would teach you, you take a charge and then you yell as loud as you can, oh, or whatever. I mean, that's what they taught you. And so I think that still applies. And, you can make it so that you use that person's size or whatever against them and stop worrying about them being bigger. Cause I think that's for younger players, that's like the biggest thing. They get, oh, that guy is so big, whatever.
You have to. One of the things, and coaches are responsible for most of this. You have to know what the abilities are of the person you're playing against, and if it's somebody that you're going to be seeing regular, maybe in league where you play them a couple of times, the coaches probably have a book on that guy. This guy likes to take and catch the ball and drop step to the right, this guy likes to spin and go over the top. And he's real effective. Okay, we're not going to let him catch the ball. How are we going to do that? We're going to get out in front of him and keep the ball away from him. Make the guys who are out facing the basket further away from the basket, make them do most of the shooting.
Yeah, and get some tools in your toolbox so that you have an option, a counter, and at least 2 or 3 other ones that you can throw out there, and that's both on offense and defense.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is from Hippity Hoppitus, who says, how does Damian Lillard get such good range?
Well,
that's easy.
Well,
He's put in the work.
Yeah.
And he also has the confidence.
Well, yeah, and the guy spends time at it. I mean, to be able to shoot from the distances he shoots and shoot effectively, not just shoot the ball at the basket. He has spent a ton of time getting better. And you might think, well, yeah, but he's not a very big guy, which he's not that big a guy, but neither is Curry in comparison to people in the NBA. But, night before last, or maybe 2 nights, I can't remember, Curry drops 134 feet. I mean, and he didn't have any difficulty with that, but they practice on using their legs for power. That is one of the key points to shooting deep, is learning how to use that leg power, because that's where all the power is.
Well, and here's the other thing. A lot of people, they're always asking these questions. How does so and so shoot so well? How is it Steph Curry such a great shooter? How is Damian Lillard? How is Kevin Durant? How is Larry Bird? How is Reggie Miller? I mean, fill in whoever's name there. Those are the hardest working people that play basketball.
Yep.
And when you think you know what they have put into work on that stuff, multiply that times by about 10, and then you're starting to get more into the ballpark. I mean, those people have shot more shots and missed more than you will ever shoot.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're asking that question, I think that you just don't even know the scope and scale of how much work those people have put into it.
That's
so
true.
Damian Lillard, I mean, that guy, I can guarantee you that he has put more work in than most anybody else in the NBA in the time period that he's had available to do it.
Yeah, that's
Steph
really
Curry,
the truth,
same thing. You don't get to be like those guys without putting in the work. I mean, they live and breathe. I mean, you read all this stuff about Kobe and stuff like that, and how he was there first, left last, and lived and breathed, and didn't have other hobbies, and didn't, until he retired, and all these things. That's how those people are. I mean, they just, that's all they do.
And you do get better, no matter what level it happens to be. The more you put into it, and the better the quality that you put into it, the more likely you're going to be super successful.
Yeah. So Hippity Hoppitus also asked, could you enact what is the perfect action for a jump shot? Okay, we can't go into exactly what we think that is, but I think that the biggest thing is connecting your feet to your follow through and making sure that you are eliminating all unnecessary variables and kind of looking at the fundamental stuff that we talk about in all our videos, right?
Yeah, one of the biggest problems that comes to my mind right off, though, for people who are shooting jump shots is they shoot the ball late. They jump in the air and they hold the ball. And what happens is 2 things, really. Number one, the ball will almost always be flat. Okay, and that's not good. And number two is the ball will almost always be short because we don't have enough power in our upper body, our shoulder girdle, like we talked a while ago, to get the ball to travel, 20 plus feet. And so the one thing that is the biggest problem is that we need to the ball needs to be on its way as you're reaching the top, not after you get to the top, but as you're reaching it, then the ball is on its way. And,
Right.
and you might wonder, well, why is that? Well, here is the why, is that you've got these big, powerful legs that you're standing on, and when you jump, you give yourself that vertical force that's going up. As soon as you reach the top of that, whatever level that happens to be, then you start to settle back to the floor. And if you haven't delivered the ball by that time, what happens is it's always going to be flat and short. So it has to do mostly with not holding the ball too long at the top of the shot. You watch Curry and some of those other guys who shoot really good jump shots. As soon as they are reaching the top of that jump, that ball is on its way.
Yeah.
Not going up and hanging.
Yeah, well, that's a sticking point where you lose power and stuff.
Yep,
So you got to
yep.
really work on not having
Yep.
those in there. Minnow Pafer says, when can you move back a few feet? Like, when do you master the close range? Well, that's a kind of a judgment call.
Yeah, your judgment, yeah.
But we would say that when you basically don't miss, and you are making many more than you miss the entire time. You know,
Yeah.
one thing to do is, are you making 10 in a row or something like that?
Sure.
And, then you move back. It is not something where, okay, I'll shoot this, and if I make 10 in a row, then I move back. I mean, you really have to feel like when you are shooting from that spot or that range or that whatever, that you are making that and you feel confident that you will make it. It's not like, okay, I made 10 in a row, I'm moving back.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't really address whether you feel like you've mastered that range.
Yeah, and something that is hard to explain is that when you develop touch, and the touch is that fine feeling on what it takes when you release the basketball for it to go the right distance and the right direction. I mean, that's something that you really should be striving for, is in every shooting thing that you do, is developing the touch.
Yep. And, it shouldn't be a race either for you to get
Yeah.
back further. I mean, you should really master as much as you can that close range.
Yep, that's true.
And, when we're talking about like you make and don't miss, like literally you're not missing shots, and they are going in, and they're not just going in, they're going in the right way.
Yeah.
With, no rim, and, maybe you're taking video of yourself and you're looking at that, and that the mechanics look right. Everything is kind of dialed in.
That's an interesting point there, Casey, that I would suggest for most anybody who's doing this is when you're shooting, have somebody video you're shooting from front, back, and sides, and then step back and look at the video and see what it shows you. And you'd be surprised what is in most of those videos, because they don't lie. And as you step back, you think, wow, I didn't realize my elbow was that far out. Wow, I didn't know that when I released the basketball, my hand was pronating to the outside. And there are a lot of things that you can find in those little videos from using your iPhone or whatever to, okay, I get it now. I get it.
And the other thing is too, is that once you master that range, that doesn't mean that you forget about it forever either.
Sure.
You still do that almost every time that you shoot the form shooting drill.
Yeah.
And if you look at video of guys like Steph Curry or whoever, we're using Steph Curry as our major guy in terms of shooting, because I mean, he's the guy that seems to be inspiring a lot of this stuff. But anybody that is a great shooter, Damian Lillard, Klay Thompson, whoever, if you look at them working on their shots or even doing warm-up stuff, they are addressing those close ranges and shooting from 3 feet and 5 feet and 6 feet, and they are doing that every single time they are shooting. So just to keep that in mind too. Okay, Peyton Cooper asks about the release points.
Well, the release point, this goes back to what we just talked about a few minutes ago, and that is that we want to make sure that the release point is that when we have full extension of the arms and legs. Now, let me just kind of break this up just real quick. We refer to shooting as being a one-part shot or a two-part shot. And a one-part shot means that the legs, as we are starting to extend them, the arms, as they're finishing, the arms are already in the way, so we catch the power from the legs. One of the things that people struggle with is what we call a two-part shot, where the legs extend and the shot has not yet begun yet. And so when that happens, as soon as the legs are straight, they provide nothing, okay? And so after that, then we have to rely upon trying to get the ball up there with our arms and shoulders, and it doesn't work. The ball will be off line, it will be short, flat, all the things that you don't want. So the release point is at the very top of your jump, okay? Let's say the top of the jump, that is when the ball is on its way. Not after you get up there and hang for a moment and then shoot it.
Yeah, as you're reaching the apex of your jump.
It's just one continuous flow from the toes to the ends of your fingers.
And it doesn't matter if you're a shooter that gets 3 inches off the ground or 30 inches off the ground.
That's true.
That really needs to be kind of where it comes out, because you don't want your fine-tuned delivery system being where you're generating power.
Yeah.
Right? And always make sure you're finishing with your elbow above your shooting eye or above your eye level.
Well, you might wonder why that's the case. Well, you get better arc that way. And you might say, well, I don't shoot with much arc. Well, there are a lot of people in the pros that don't shoot with much arc either. But I'm not going to go into why that's not a good idea. We'll catch that another day.
It doesn't matter. Hippity Hoppitas ask, do power forwards and centers need to practice their threes or their paint shot?
That's a good question.
Both.
How many times do you figure you'd be shooting that shot? You might shoot it once and the coach will have you on the bench almost before it gets to the basket.
Okay, but hold on. But they're talking about practice. Well, you should always be as well-rounded a basketball player as you possibly can be.
Yeah.
You should be able to do everything. And you don't want to, I mean, obviously if there's an emphasis on where you're being played, you're going to work on that a lot. Exactly. But you should never not be working on everything. And when we talk about bringing value to your team, you should always be thinking about being the most versatile type of player you can, so that you are valuable across the board. If a team needs somebody to play more of a post player, or if they need somebody to play more of a perimeter player, you're ready to go.
Well, it depends.
And if you face a team that somehow maybe taking your post play position and moving it to the perimeter, like maybe that will give you a better look or whatever. So, we always hear stuff like, should short guys just be point guards, or should tall guys are only centers, or what? Like, we don't really ascribe to that, because, you'll find that the more skills you have, the better player you are. It doesn't matter if you're 6'11" or if you're 5'11".
Well, yeah, and the program has changed quite a bit. And college game, you can see this happening too, is those bigs are stepping away from the basket. In watching their Warriors play last night, they have a 7-footer that plays center for them, or the post for them, and he steps away and he's not afraid to shoot the ball from 23 feet and be effective with it. And a lot of bigs in the pros are like that. They're moving away from that post-oriented game to one that is a 5-out perimeter game where there's a lot of motion and whatnot.
Yeah, but especially for young players,
Yep.
You should not specialize if you can avoid it.
Yep.
Because that's a great way to just get shoved into that specialization, or maybe miss out on making the team or whatever. And you can see that the game, it has changed a lot, where, the people that would classically be thought of as a center are suddenly they're playing the point guard and stuff, and it's vice versa. So make yourself the most versatile, well-rounded player that you can.
All right.
This one is from Justin Wright, who says, hey, is there a drill that helps me shoot tremendously, because I shoot 5 spots, 5 makes, 3s, 25. Okay, I don't know what that all means, but my shot isn't getting any better. Okay. I think you need to take a look at the form shooting drill.
Well, and mechanics. And
break down your mechanics to their kind of bare bones, because it sounds like something is going on. And like you were saying earlier, is maybe video, or, record yourself on your phone or whatever. And most phones too, they have the slow motion option to do that.
Right.
Kind of look at what's going on, and also study some of the videos that we put out about shooting and mechanics and things like that, and make sure that you're doing all those things. And it says here that you're shooting some of these shots. I mean, if you're shooting threes and your shot is off, that sounds like that's not a good thing.
No,
because you will just be reinforcing the bad mechanics.
Right, and that would be my thought too. Is that when you're having difficulty like that, it's because you're shooting beyond your range with mechanics that are not working.
Yeah.
And as Casey pointed out just a moment ago, we would recommend that you go to our videos and take a look at the shooting mechanics. And we've got a whole bunch of shooting things on the playlist, right? And the form shooting drill just happens to be one of those. But when you go to those and you look at those and then watch yourself on video and say, oh boy, I didn't think about that. And that must be the problem.
And you're also saying that, I mean, you're shooting 8 of 10 free throws, which isn't terrible at all.
No.
So maybe you're having a problem with stepping it up from a set shot to kind of a game speed, off the dribble, off the pass shot or something like that. So you need to work on that too. That's just another thing to work on. Hippity Hoppity is Steph Curry versus James Harden. Two different types of really great players. So
they're really different players.
Yeah. What do you want to know? Okay, One Mo Gain 23, who sounds like a familiar name from a while back. How do you not shoot long when doing a pull-up? And 2, where do you put your feet on the free throw line? I can't find the correct position. Okay, first one is how do you not shoot long when doing a pull-up? That's easy. You have to convert your horizontal momentum into vertical momentum, and you do that through footwork.
And footwork is the key. So often I see players who struggle with all kinds of basketball skills is because they don't know how to use their feet. And one of the things that we do in our lessons is we kind of start with that. This is what you do, and this is why you do it, and how you use your feet. And one of the things that really helps is to learn that if you're going to take and you're going to come up and pull up for a shot, we never want to see anybody hop into that shot because you can't control your momentum. If you hop into the shot, then your momentum is going to carry you forward. And you limit your options on a counter as well. Right. And the thing that we do is we always teach a 1-2 step. And
stop, gather.
It's stop and gather, and one foot is your stop foot, the other is your gather foot. And what happens is that you're able to bring yourself more under control when you shoot that basketball.
Yeah, and we're not going to get into all the footwork stuff right now because we have videos and stuff on it and we plan to do more. But one of the things to consider too is that when you are going into your shot, you want to stay low. It doesn't matter if you're passing or coming off the pass or coming off the dribble. You're staying low and you're going into your shot with this stop, gather footwork so that you can stay low to finish high. When you do stuff like hopping into your shot or you're standing upright and you're going into the shot too, that's not a good way to approach it either. Yeah. But if you're hopping in, you're going from high to low to high to finish. And that's wasted time, wasted energy, wasted or adding variables. So it's not a good approach. And when you're going into your shot with the right footwork, you also are generating the rhythm that you need and stopping that horizontal momentum, which can make your shot strong because you haven't stopped yourself from going forward. Yeah. So you want to convert that horizontal momentum into vertical momentum.
Well, let me take just a moment to touch on something else, and that is stop and gather. When we are going to make a stop, let's say we take and we're going to take and reach out with our right foot, that becomes what we call the stop foot, and the other is gather. And what we're doing is stop and gathering to shoot it. We don't have to shoot it, but that's how we do it. Or you could step with the left foot, that's your stop foot, and the other is your gather foot. The important thing to remember is that
depends on what side of the basket you're on too.
If you're coming up the floor pretty quickly and you're going to pull up and shoot it, make sure that your stop foot is a little bit longer. If you take and short it, have a short step, you can't stop your momentum. Just reach a little further with that stop foot. Maybe it's only a foot, but by reaching a little bit further with that, then you're able to bring your body under control before you try to shoot it.
Yeah, so I mean that's important, and staying low, and those things will help you stay in control.
Yep.
Okay. So the second one that they were asking about is where do you put your feet on the free throw line? I think that one of the things, everybody's different, but I think that the way to think about it is the fact that you are shooting basically a one-handed shot.
Yep.
So you're shooting foot, your shooting side foot, which if you're a right-handed shooter, is your right foot. That should basically be right at the free throw line, right in the middle of the basket, right?
Yep.
Because what's going to happen is that you're going to line up all of that stuff, whether it's your wrist, elbow, shoulder, hip, knee, foot. All of that is going to line up. And so when you're shooting, you want that all to be in line right at the target. So if you're offset, or if you do the classic square up where it's right in the middle of your body, you're basically shooting across your body, and you have to make sure that the triangulation is going to meet up there at the right spot. But if you are shooting that really nice staggered one arm emphasized shot, then that should be right in the middle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. So let's see. The next one is from Peyton Cooper, who says they are from Columbia, South Carolina.
All right.
What is the key to get great arch? And let's keep it short so we can get going.
The key to great arch, as Casey touched on it a few minutes ago. Number one, well, let's make sure that we've got the legs and a one-part shot underway. And the other thing to a great arc on the shot is to make sure that your elbow always finishes higher than your eye level. What happens, we had a student here this morning, and this is what his arm looked like. We call that a V. And every time we shoot with a V, this becomes a hinge point, and it looks like this. And when it's a hinge point, the ball will always be flat and usually short. Now watch this. If I'm going to shoot and elevate the elbow here above our eyes, then that's going to give you the arc you need.
Yeah, and sometimes it helps when you try to visualize what the ball sees when it's flying through the air.
Yep.
If you put your eyes on the ball, let's say you're riding on the ball and it has a flat arc, when you get to the rim, you'll see that the rim is just very tiny looking and there's not much space for you to get in there. If you have that nice arc and you're thinking about it, that ball is going to see it and it's going to open up the rim so that it is a much more usable area. So it's very important to finish high and also be thinking about finishing high every time you shoot.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to pass on that one. I had something else, but I'm going to pass on it.
Well, I mean, if it's a quick, go for it.
No, that's good.
Hippity Hoppity says, I never really understood what a foul is in the goaltending foul. Goaltending is not a foul. Goaltending is when you mess with the ball when it is either in its downward trajectory to the basket, so it's reached the apex of the shot and it's going down towards the basket. You hit it out of the way, or if it's on the rim in the cylinder of the basket and you somehow touch it or deflect it or hit the backboard or hit the rim or whatever. That is a goaltend, and they essentially just count the shot.
Yeah,
and it's basically just as if it had gone through the basket. Minnow says about fronting. What if you are already behind him and he seals you so you can't front him anymore? How do you get in front of them? That means that you need to create some space. So maybe you step back.
Are you talking about at the post?
Yeah, if you're defending in the post.
Yeah. Okay.
So you step back, and there's swim moves and things like that, and spinning and.
Yeah. One of the things, I don't know if I mentioned this a while ago or not, but if you're playing behind a post player, one of the worst things in the world you can do is crowd them, where you get right up against them with your body and your forearm here.
Because you're giving them more eyes because they know where you are.
Well, not only that, but if they make a quick move, you don't have time to react to it. So we like to have our post player back off a little bit, maybe a foot and a half or so that, number one, they don't know where you are because you're not touching them. And number two, if they make a turn, then you could slide in front of them and maybe take that away. The more you crowd them, that advantages offense. When you get off of them, it's advantage defense.
Yeah. And so, like I was saying, you step away, you can reset, or the swim over move where they have their arms up like this, and you can swim over like that and get around them like that.
Yep.
Or spin.
Yep.
There's a lot of ways to do it. Maybe that's one that we should talk about too. That's a good idea for a video.
Yep.
Let's see here. Justin Wright is asking him, what do you think about Harden's foul hook the arm and cheating the game? Okay, I don't even know really what you're talking about because I wasn't watching any of the stuff the last few days, but I would say that James Harden uses his ability to draw fouls and stuff in a way that I don't have a problem with, because it's like the referees are the ones that are responsible for calling the game, and they're giving that leeway and they're rewarding that action. So it shouldn't be something where they're fining players or shaming play. It's the referee's responsibility to be calling the game. If they're being fooled, that's something that they need to address. Yeah. But you should never be trying to hurt somebody. You should never be, I think there's a fine line between the things that are where you're trying to draw fouls and deceptive. I mean, there was one thing that I used to do when I played that was common. It was, everybody did it, where you clamp down on the guy's arm and he's he can't get away, and then you make it look like he fouled you, and that everybody used to do that. And so I don't really ascribe to the thing where the players are being called out for flopping. It's the referees, man. Yeah, right?
It is.
Okay. Justin Wright asks, how long would it take to shoot 629 shots?
I would think to shoot that many shots would probably take you an hour and 15 minutes.
Maybe a little bit more. I mean, you want it to be quality shots too.
Yeah, you don't want to just be yanking them. I was watching this video the other day, and this person, there was a graphic on the screen, and this person shot, I think, 160 shots in like 4 minutes. You couldn't do that. It's not possible to do that. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, you can't get quality shots doing that.
No.
And a lot of times people will say, "Oh yeah, I shot 400 shots today."
Yeah.
Whatever. And it's like, well, what kind of shots were they? Because I'd rather take 100 high quality, well prepared, thought out, purposeful shots than 400 just wingdings that you just threw up
truly,
there.
Truly.
Okay. One Mogain says, how do you not get blocked when doing a post move? How do you make space?
Okay. If you're the post player and you have people who are behind you, remember this: if they're guarding you and they are crowding you, and you can feel that because you can feel their forearm against your back. When they're crowding you, you can actually use a spin move. And most of them are incapable of doing anything about that. That spin move has kept the two Gasol brothers involved in the NBA for their whole career, because it's really almost unstoppable if properly executed. And so that's a good way to go too.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you go look at our videos on post moves, we have a whole thing of them on there. And again, the biggest suggestion that we can give you is that you should have a move and a counter move, and at least have like two, if not 3 or 4 of those options set up.
Yeah.
And
that you're good at, that you can execute. And
those should all be ones that help you create space. I mean, that's like the key point of those post moves, is to create space.
I'm going to take a second here to just relate this. Had a player about probably been 5 years ago or so, and he was about 6'4" as a freshman, and he stayed about 6'4" until he graduated. But he didn't know how to play, and so we spent a lot of time working on his skills as a post player, because that's about the only place he could play. And what happened was this: he developed that spin move to the baseline, finish on the opposite side, and he got pretty good at it. And one of the things that happened is the team got to one of the section tournaments, and he had to play against a guy who was 6'7". He used that spin move and put 24 points on the guy, because it is explosive, and if you can't move your feet, you can't stay with them. That's something that I would really take a look at. And like Casey said, we have a video on that.
Oh, we have a video on a bunch of post move stuff.
We do.
So check that out. Okay. We're going to wrap this up real quick, so let's just do a lightning round on some of these, all right?
All right.
This one is from Momo Gain again. He says, I dribble with finger pads and dribble hard, but the ball feels slippery in my hands a lot. I think you just need to maybe, again, slow. I mean, just like with shooting, there's basically the form shooting for dribbling, which is, working on your dribbling form. One of the things that you want to do is make sure that you're keeping your fingers spread, maybe.
That's the thing that comes to my mind right away is spreading your fingers out, especially your thumb, so that it's touching the finger pads. That's how we control the ball a lot better, just by opening up that hand. If we are on our finger pads, but the fingers are kind of close together, we can't cover the ball properly. So just spread that thumb out.
Okay, Bill All Ross says, sometimes I shoot from my little finger / ring finger. How can I fix it to shoot all the time with the middle finger and or forefinger?
Practice.
Well, yeah, you have to
Practice.
purposely think of it. I mean, you've identified the problem, so I mean, you need to get out there, do the form shooting drill, and work on that. And one of the things that you want to work on is the finish, where you're not doing this. That's one of those things that'll do that supinating it, but finishing with that flop finish where you are emphasizing those two fingers off your pointer and index. Let's see. Justin Wright asks, how many shots should I shoot a day? I usually shoot 25 makes threes and 35 makes mid-range 5 days a week, but my shot isn't. Oh yeah, we already talked about that one. And again, we can't tell you guys how many shots to shoot a day. I mean,
it's up to you.
It really depends on the time you have, the willingness you are to put in the quality shots, and whatever it is. Consistency is really important.
Yeah, let me address something else I think is real important there. When you are going to do any of those shooting drills, make sure you have a rebounder. Otherwise, you spend most of your time chasing the basketball. Get a rebounder who can help you. Maybe they rebound one side, you rebound the other, so you don't have to constantly chase the ball all the way over in the corner.
Or mom or dad or whoever.
Yeah, somebody. Doesn't make any difference. Somebody to help you with it.
This one is from One More Game. Says, yeah, I'm a longtime subscriber. Glad you remember me. Much respect. Thanks for the tips. Awesome. Glad that you're still here. Yeah. Bill Alraz says, one more question. How to go to the basket? I mean, when I have the ball in my hand, I don't want to go to the layup, so I shoot or make a floater. I think I'm scary of the contact or foul. Okay, check out our attacks off the dribble, and look at our finishes at the rim. Right,
the finish at the rim will really help you.
So those will help you. I mean, that's not something that we can just sit here and answer in a minute. Yeah. You need to get those moves in and work on those. Yeah. One More Game says, one more question. How do you size up when you dribble the ball between your legs without hitting your legs or losing the ball? Even with practice, it still happens. I want to do that to size up. I don't know what to size up means, but you need to check out our video on the between the legs dribble. Yep. And again, it just takes practice, and you need to purposefully look at it, slow it down. One of the things that people do is they try to do game speed right out of the gate. Yeah. Slow it down and literally do it at snail pace first until you master it. Speed it up as you go. Okay, Tom E says, what should the on-ball guard defender be doing when icing the P and R? I don't know. That sounds like a longer question than one we can answer. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for us today. If we didn't answer your questions, not because we don't like you, it's because we ran out of time. A lot of times, sometimes people ask questions, and it's something that we have to think about too to figure it all out. But make sure that you guys send us your questions. Also, we have 2 questions of the day for you guys today. So where are you from in the world? We want to know that. We're from California, but we want to know where you guys are. And also, what is one thing that you need to work on to make your shot better? And are you going to do that today? Like, we want to know, are you going to go out there and work on your shot? Make sure you follow us on all of our social media stuff. We are Shot Science everywhere on that stuff. On Facebook, we're doing different stuff. We're on Twitter, Instagram. So check us out there. Make sure you guys check out shotscience.com. And you can support us by getting a Shot Science shirt, which I don't think either of us are wearing today. But you got the hat on. Yeah. If you do want a hat, we can try to figure that out for you too. But that kind of stuff helps support us. And remember that we are right now working on finishing our studio space. We have our cameras that we're dialing in, and we're going to be getting you guys some new videos real soon. Send us in the topics that you guys want us to tackle. And I guess we will see you guys next time for another live show or a new video.
All right. See you later, guys. All right. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. See you guys later.